Hi everyone, I'm Elisa Vitti, the founder of FLO Living, and we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of helping women recover from hormonal issues naturally. I'm leading a series of conversations to celebrate with some of my favorite female founders, athletes, activists, and other women who have been on their own hormonal journey because, we're all on one. And we're here to unpack why it's so important that you understand your hormones and how they work, to remind you that you don't have to tolerate your symptoms, and to educate you on why it's important to take action. Joining me today is Ricki Lake. She is an Emmy Award-winning television host and actress, from her lead role in Hairspray to hosting her insanely popular talk show for over a decade as the youngest talk show host at the time, to now her work as a producer making films that dive deep into maternal care and women's health care with her films like The Business of Being Born and The Business of Birth Control. She is an outspoken advocate for women's health care and uses her platform to improve the narrative we're having about our well-being. Hi, Ricki. Thanks for being
All
here.
right, it's my pleasure. You know I'm a huge fan of yours and everything you do for women, so it's my
Oh,
pleasure.
thank you so much. I mean, you have been just such an innovator when it comes to really seeing what needs to change in our conversation. So I was just so excited to have you here talking about hormones, because we have been maybe missing the mark a little bit on what that should look like. And you have such an incredible story of your own hormonal journey. And I just wanted everybody to hear it. So let's hear it. Tell me what it's been like. What is your experience of dealing with hormone symptoms? How have they impacted your life? How have you been feeling with your hormones these days?
I feel so lucky because I don't really do much other than live my life in a really authentic way. I'm super like grateful and happy, and I'm 54 years old. I'm going to be 55 in September, and I still get a regular cycle, and I have not experienced one hot flash. I mean, it's crazy because all my friends, around my age, and many of them, most of them, I'd say, don't get a cycle anymore for years, for years. So I know everybody's different, but I appreciate, and I think for so many years I was like, ugh, I have my period, ugh, ugh, ugh. I embrace it. Every month that I still get my period makes me feel young. It makes me feel like I have this vitality, and I still have a sex drive. I mean, I'm also a newlywed. I'm also an empty nester. Like, my circumstances are such that I have a pretty low stress lifestyle. I don't work a full-time thing, so it's like I think it's all of the above. I'm not an athlete. I'm not crazy rigid about what I eat, but I'm conscious of what I eat. I'm conscious of the sleep I get. I wear an Aura ring now. So it's just, I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form, but I really, am embracing aging gracefully and appreciating every stage I'm at, including where I am now.
And I've had a look at your hormone panels, and you were like, is there anything I should be? I'm like, no, you're good.
Yeah, you
you
were
know,
kind enough to do that for me. It was been a couple of years. It was during COVID,
yeah.
right? But yeah, I mean, I think it's also luck of the draw. I mean, I think it's genetic, right? I mean, a lot of it is like what we're given, right? And I don't know. I'm just like, I don't mess with it. We talked about seed cycling. We talked about, and I bought all this stuff and I tried it for a little while. I mean, I just feel like if it's not broken, why fix it? Like, I just am
Well, and
conscious.
I think for you, the thing that, and we were chatting about this right before, is that, we talk a lot about working on the body. We talk about biohacking. We talk about, trying to kind of interact with the body in specific ways to manipulate it. That's very common. People are more comfortable with that, which is a good thing. But I think what your story and why I wanted you to share it represents is like a different level of what self-care can look like. It doesn't have to look like such hard work,
Mhm.
right? And for some of us, like with me, with my PCOS, when that was going on, I mean, it was hard work to kind of bring that back into balance, and work on the food and change everything and clean up the diet and reduce the inflammation. I mean, the whole thing. But if you happen to be someone who has a pretty good cycle, right? You can do some basic things like the cycle syncing method just to kind of keep everything balanced. But then also you can work inside your body on, instead of like working on a particular issue, you can start working on just your level of happiness, your stress reduction, your joy. And I mean, I think that's something that really you have embodied and embraced as you've gone through your life, is to really prioritize pleasure and happiness. And it's measurable. I mean, and we see this also in like these longest lived blue zone cultures
Mhm.
where the people there are healthy, not having diseases of inflammation, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they're making it to 100. And what is that really attributed to? The thing that they all have in common is not the diet. It's the happiness factor. It's community, it's fun, it's playing in the garden, it's doing whatever feels fun for them. But
Yep.
that's the priority. That's the measure of success in a person's life. And
Mm.
it pays off tremendously in terms of physiological health. But it's like, I think the hardest thing, because it feels more intangible to us in our fast-paced lifestyle.
Right, right. I mean, I'm sort of the opposite of so many people that I look at, that I admire and look up to, but like am I don't need more and more and more and more, and to make more, to achieve more, to prove myself relevant. Like, I'm not in that mindset. I'm really about balance. And I really wanted, in this phase of my life, I wanted partnership. I lost my last partner to suicide and bipolar disorder. So like, having lost, it's just my priority shifted as I got older, and I'm also in a position. I made all my money off of my talk show. Like, I'm not in a place where I need to.
And yet you do lots of things. I mean, since we've gotten connected, you've made a couple, 3, 4 films. I mean, you're very busy with your production company.
I am, and I'm not driven by. It's not driven by like achieving more. It's really about, like, I have these questions. Like, I'm this layperson who just like wants to explore these topics because I don't feel like they're being talked about in a way that that gets me going. Like, like The Business of Being Born is, the movie. I think that the reason it was so successful and continues to be, is it went mainstream. We were able to talk about something that wasn't just like crunchy and woo woo and out, and like, like people wanted to suddenly talk about this how and where we give birth, like that's important. And so, yeah, I love the work I do, and I don't feel stressed from it. I mean, I do, in that it's disappointing. The business of birth control, we never sold it domestically because of, obviously, subject matter and big pharma being tied to everything. But I just am enjoying this stage of my career and this stage of my personal life. And yeah, I'm nailing this happiness thing. I really am.
I
I
love that. I think it's an unsung biohack, and it's not one that might be as popular in terms of, it feeling trendy, but it's not a trend. It's something that is about supporting yourself on a cellular level from a place of like love vibration, which is, sounds a little out there, but it really,
totally true.
they're measuring those things with like looking at this, all sorts of different ways to analyze how different vibrations, emotions, frequencies affect our cells. So we're starting to get a little bit more savvy about that as less of a woo woo thing and more of a real thing. You
I,
have had a little bit of an issue.
well, I was gonna
Yeah,
go.
you had this perfect period journey, which we all want. And we can all have if we learn to navigate things a little bit better. But what's been something that, share a little bit about the thing that was a little bit more difficult for
The thing
you?
that was torturing me, on and off for 25 years, was my hair. My hair. I was dealing. So I was on the pill. I was on hormonal birth control for 2 decades, off and on, in between kids and whatever. Didn't think anything of it. Was never given full informed consent, and this could cause hair loss. Like never. I never heard those words. And it was doing research after the fact, when I've been plagued with this thing that so many women go through, the shedding of the hair. um you know that was my Achilles heel. That was something that really bothered me, because I'm someone that has been authentic and real my entire life, my entire career, and I don't hide things well. I'm not a good liar. And this piece of me, like, I just was super self-conscious, and I did all sorts of things to try to cover it up, and like with wearing extensions, and I colored my hair for a long time. And so I finally came to a place of being at peace. I shaved my head almost 4 years ago. It's hard to believe that it's been
I
almost.
remember.
I just had enough, and I think only really women, I mean, men deal with it too. Women who struggle in this way know what this struggle is. It is real, and it is, people say, "Oh, it's just hair, get over it." No, it's like I was on TV every day. I was having to have my hair blown out and heat on it, and just seeing the clumps of hair in the shower, seeing the clumps of hair in the hairbrush, seeing under the light, seeing my scalp. It just was really debilitating. It got in the way of everything. Relationships I stayed in, relationships that I shouldn't have stayed in, because I felt this desperation of like, who would want me if they knew what I was dealing with. I mean, it was really, really, really rough. And I can honestly say, once I did shave my head and came clean, it wasn't just the act. It was also just like owning like, this is what I've been dealing with. And I had no choice but to be honest about it, because I am a public figure. I didn't want people thinking that that I had cancer, God forbid, or that I was having a mental breakdown. Like, I just wanted to be real about it. And in doing so, it did so much for my mental state, for my place of loving myself and accepting myself, being in my early 50s, letting my hair grow natural, if it was going to grow back at all, letting my hair go do what it's going to. I've never colored it again. And
I have never colored my hair either. Never in my whole life.
Never. Oh, you have virgin hair? That's amazing.
I've never touched my hair, never, not once, and it's definitely.
What is that about you? Okay, because we're not supposed to, as women in this society, we're supposed to be looking younger and younger and younger, and gray hair is this taboo thing. I mean, I think it changed a lot during COVID, which I was ahead.
I started going gray after I stopped breastfeeding a bunch of years back. It just like happened very precipitously, but it was also simultaneous with my mom's passing. So it was kind of like a hormonal shift plus a big life stress, and the gray just started being more pronounced. And I had never colored my hair, and then I don't know, I just didn't start. And I think if the question is why am I not triggered by it such that I would go and do something about it, the only thing I can say is that I grew up with immigrant parents and a whole culture of women around me that came from another culture where the relationship to beauty and aging was one of natural acceptance. I mean, I would hear things growing up like, you don't need to wear makeup when you're young, but as you get older, you might need to wear some, if you feel like when you're like 60, you might want to start wearing lipstick, right? Like it was that. Or, I mean, my grandmothers never colored their hair. Everybody just had gray hair around me at a certain point. So as a young person, that just was sort of the normal thing. And we just really I wasn't raised plugged into a lot of mainstream culture things, so I was in a little bubble of my family's own design. And that has helped me in so many ways. Like when I first learned about menstruation, I had never been exposed to it before. Never, not once. No one said a negative thing I never even knew it was going to happen. So when I sat down in sex ed class for the first time and someone said, girls get this thing once a month called a period, I was overjoyed. I thought that was the best thing I had ever heard. I was so excited. I immediately started a period club that afternoon, and one could argue that I am still the president of that same period club to this day. I mean, I just think it's the best thing ever still. But no one had ever dropped a hint, a negative comment. No aunt or cousin or my mom. No one said anything about it. It was.
Wait, where are you from? Where's your family from?
My family's from Italy, from the countryside in Italy, and they left after World War II. And my parents were young children, and I mean, it's just like a whole thing. My grandparents didn't really speak English growing up, and like they lived farm to table from their garden, and before that was like a trend. And so,
Where were you raised?
Say that again.
Where were you raised?
Outside of Boston.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was just like a whole other thing. And so, yeah, I mean, now I'm going gray and, I'm in my mid 40s and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, sometimes I think about it only like, I notice I can't wear black and white the way that I used to because it just doesn't do anything for me. I don't have that red undertone in my hair anymore, but now I'm wearing other colors. And so that's good.
Well, I'm just grateful I have hair. Like, honestly, I won't complain. And people, it's so funny to me because I was obsessed with everyone else's hair. I hated my hair so much. I wanted that curly, like I wanted, that Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman was like
Sure.
coveted that, and it's just not in the cards, not in this lifetime. But now that my hair has grown back and I use this product, I've been endorsing, I've never done an endorsement in my entire,
I know.
and this company, it's helped me. I can't say it's,
What would you say the underlying issue was? Was
I
it
don't know. I know that
stress? Was it the hormonal issues from the pill?
I think obviously the stress, the me obsessing about it constantly, constantly playing with my hair. I had extensions that were weighing down. I was wearing like a hair piece in my woven into my hair that was pulling on my hair. Coloring my hair every 2.5, 3 weeks was not doing me any favors. And I use this product. It's called Our Clinicin. It's out of Copenhagen. And it's fermented. It's something to do with it basically keeps your hair and scalp as healthy as possible. So it's like this optimum level of health. And I don't think negative thoughts about how I look anymore. I appreciate, and I guess that shifts when you get older, when your body doesn't hurt. Yes, I have extra weight on me. I am happy and I eat a lot with my husband and I don't exercise as much as I should. But I do exercise. I do, but it's like a balance. It's like I have a good balance and I'm at peace with what I got,
I love that. I think we should all be a lot more gracious and loving and compassionate with ourselves, even if you're dealing with a hormonal symptom. That's the hardest thing, I think, that when you're going through something, right? Like when you were going through the thing with your hair, you can often feel like you're in a battle with yourself or with that part of your body. And that doesn't help, right? If you had a child that was coming to you with a boo-boo, you wouldn't scold the child. You wouldn't say, oh, what's wrong with you that you skinned your knee, And similarly, it's like the logic falls apart when you start to get upset with your endocrine system. If your hormones aren't working the right way, it's kind of nutty when you pull it out, look at it that way and say, why am I being so hard on myself when this is maybe just something that needs a little love and support. So I think that's just, a really good reminder that we should be a lot more gentle on ourselves. It's not easy out there for ovaries and our bodies in general. So if something is going on, it's okay. These things happen. And that's why I like your story too, because, yes, on the one hand, now you've had this great cycle for a long time, but you have had this history of being on the pill, of having these hair issues, of having these struggles. And, to go through both experiences, recognizing that things are always changing and we have to keep adjusting our response to our self-care is so, so important. I'm so curious. I know you and I have been chatting for a number of years. When you first heard about this concept of cycle syncing, how did you feel about learning that you would have to go for, because the whole rhetoric has been women are smaller versions than men because we're left out of research, right?
Right.
And that we should just, in order to compensate, eat fewer calories and work out more every single day without fail. And instead, as I wrote about in the second book, just actually that's not true. We have this second biological rhythm and we should change the way that we're working out, and the calorie intake, types of food, workout intensity, all has to match which phase of the cycle you're in. How did that land for you the first time you heard it?
I mean, it made sense to me, but I was someone, like, I thought nothing of like staying on that pill so I skipped my period that month. Like, I was one of those people that just didn't think anything was wrong with messing with our cycles synthetically. I just was like, okay, the doctor thinks I should do this. I don't want to get pregnant. Okay. But it was really in making the movie, The Business of Birth Control. I think I was connected to you before the movie.
Yeah. We met when your first movie.
You were on my show. I think you were on my weren't you on my last talk show?
No. We met when The Business of Being Born was you were having a New York premiere, and I came to that
premiere. Okay, but I don't think I learned about like syncing your cycle and all that stuff until really making The Business of Birth Control.
Right. When I was interviewed for the documentary, that's when you first heard about it. I was just so curious if a lot of women, when they first hear about it, they feel like, gosh, they feel excited, but also a little frustrated that they hadn't been told that information first, before anytime, because it clearly would have been something that would have shifted the way that they dealt with their period, as opposed to, for example, you thinking nothing at all of keeping it shut down for so long, right? It's a missed opportunity. Now that you're cycling every month and loving it, can you
Yeah.
imagine if you had that relationship, at 16, at 18 with your cycle?
I mean, if I could go back in time, of course, I would do things so differently. But yeah, I mean, that, they talk about it being the fifth vital sign. You can learn so much about your health by just tracking your cycle. And I think that's what we're hoping to teach. I mean, I know with the work you do and with our films, it's like getting women to really embrace this is a gift. This is like knowledge is power. And, we do have the ability to fix, what's going on with us by just doing these simple things that you teach. It's
I
invaluable.
love I love that you have been focusing on these conversations. I'm curious, what is the why behind why you sort of dedicated using your platform to speak about these issues?
I
It,
mean, it really is by accident. It's really how I had my two children. I mean,
mm,
that's where it was the combination of living through September 11th, like firsthand downtown, watching
mm.
it all unfold after I'd had my baby. I had a newborn, so I'd had my home birth, water birth in that spot, and 2 months later, watched that plane hit the building. And so it was those traumatic events, I think, that woke me up where I wanted to do projects that I felt would be even more impactful than having that talk show every day. And so the business of being born was super personal. I didn't understand why my really intelligent, peers and colleagues didn't seem to care about how their babies were being born. They didn't seem to care. They just wanted the perfect clean baby in their arms. And it's like, no, 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 we're missing an opportunity, I think, for women, to be empowered during this process, to be, because there's so much birth trauma that's happening, a lot, and women aren't being respected. So it just was my thing. Like I just got into this thing and I felt like this is where I can use my platform and my celebrity, and it's something that mattered to me. And so
And I
yeah,
think it's so brilliant because oftentimes that's when a woman first wakes up to the potency of her physiology is during birth, during pregnancy and birth, and becomes awe-inspired about what her body is capable of. But of course, that is one special moment in a continuum of exceptional things that your body does as a woman. Bleeding monthly is pretty extraordinary, because you're 3D printing an organ every month that then sheds itself. I mean, it's super cool when you think about it. And then everything that happens from the first bleed to the last and beyond is really incredible. But
fascinating.
it's fascinating, unendingly for me, of course. But I love that you kind of started your first film at that moment where a lot of women have this recognition of like, oh yeah, my body does this pretty, my body's amazing. It does amazing
And I
things.
hated my body or I don't want to say I hated my body, but I was insecure about my body.
Yeah.
I was the fat girl in Hairspray, and I was, there was always like I needed to fix my mom wanted to fix my body for my early adult, life. And to like see me, and particularly my second birth. So, obviously birth is amazing, and however we become a mother is incredible. But for me, have owning that experience, seeing what my body could do without being saved under the medical industrial complex, like having my midwife and my birth team there, and being a victim of sexual abuse as a child, and like a lot of healing took place in that moment of that precious time of having my baby on my own terms. And
Mm.
I'm not telling women what to do. I'm not saying I'm better than. I'm just sharing my experience and wanting to have a conversation about it.
I think it's so remarkable that you have been doing this. I mean, it's not like every producer is making films about these conversations. So I just, really have always appreciated and admired and respected the choice that you've made to do this. It's really important work that you've been doing with your production team, and I hope
Love it.
I
I love
hope everybody sees these movies because they are transformative, really truly transformative
Abby, my
movies.
partner. Abby Epstein's my partner in crime, and the two
Who's
of us.
amazing.
She's incredible. I have chills just talking about her. She's really the encyclopedia about all things cycling, and like, I mean, because she directed the movie, and it's just I know we've done really, really important work. We've helped so many women, and it's the most fulfilling thing I could do with my life, honestly. And in fact, it stemmed from the births of my two children, who are now 26 and almost 22. it's really my purpose is so deep to me, and now that I get to play and have this, this life where I really I do this work and I have this great home life, and I feel like I've cracked the code, to like
Passion and
really
purpose,
life.
nothing
Yeah.
like passion and purpose to really help your body feel and operate at its best. And it's like we said at the beginning, it's really the unsung biohack. And I think we're so focused on, details of things, but oftentimes if you can get into a groove with um, a peaceful life, one that, where you're contributing in a meaningful way, it does wonders for your health for sure. What do you want women to know as we wrap up, Ricki? What do you want women to know about dealing with issues? If they've got anything going on, if they're struggling with perimenopause or fertility or cramps or any of these things that plague us, 80% of women, struggle with a hormonal condition at some point in her lifetime. What should they know? What words of wisdom can you impart to women?
I think there's an incredible resources out there for, namely you, of course, but there's so many amazing people, practitioners, women in particular. You have to advocate for yourself. You can't just put it in the hands of one doctor that tells you I mean, it's like you have to do the digging and the due diligence for your own, health, physical, mental, everything. I mean, it's like you know better than anyone your body. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it is a lot of effort, and it's particularly in the field of like hormones and going through perimenopause. I mean, I'm still like, okay, when I hit menopause, when my period does stop, is my hair gonna fall out again? Like, is that gonna be something I'm gonna be dealing with? I don't know, but I'm like, I'm so lucky because, because we made this film, I have contact with amazing people like you that I can reach out to and ask questions. But there's so many great books. Suzanne Gilbert Lenz just put out a great book about menopause. I forgot the title. There's just so many people that are out there to help us. And I think, social media, one thing that's good for is, I think, connecting with people about this issue. There's a plethora of information out there. You just have to advocate for yourself.
I love that. I think, recognizing that you shouldn't just tolerate. If I had to sum up what you're saying, it's like, don't tolerate the suffering, look for information, advocate for yourself, and get into action. And that's really what we want for all women. And that's why I built this company, being patient zero myself, dealing with hormonal issues in my young adult life, recognizing that there was just no place to go to easily get the correct information that I needed to make a game plan for myself to resolve some of these symptoms that I was having. I was just, as on fire as I was to sort of be the president of the period club in sixth grade, I became equally impassioned about building a platform that was going to, not leave women like myself out on their own trying to figure this all out, because it's overwhelming. It can be really scary and demoralizing and debilitating to try to figure this out by yourself. And access is such a big issue. I mean, there's, yes, a ton of practitioners, but also it's hard to find the right one. Sometimes it's out of reach economically. And so I'm really proud that we've built a company that's extremely accessible. And now with this new offering, as we're celebrating the launch of not just the 10-year anniversary, but the launch of this very new, exciting opportunity in terms of the app, you can now go into the app, which is new, put in any and all of your symptoms, whatever's bothering you. The app is going to tell you from a functional perspective why you're having that symptom and customize a personalized care plan just for you. And then you can keep track of your symptoms as they change, and all of that's going to just continue to track and take care of you as you go through all those changes. So we're really excited about the new offering and the new app and the new
Amazing.
website, just so that
I'm
we
so
can,
grateful for you.
I mean, we just want to make getting hormonal health care easier and more accessible for women. That's really what we're up to at FLO Living. And so we're just really excited. And I can't believe it's been 10 years. I know we're just getting started, but I mean, it's, you've done so much innovating and trailblazing yourself. And I'm so inspired by that. Trust me, it's something that I hold into my heart all the time. Like, how can we keep moving the narrative forward? What can we do to make something new and
Whatever I can
innovative?
do to support, because what you're doing is so important. You've helped so many women, and I'm in awe of what you've done. Congratulations on 10
Thank
years. That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, as you know, it's so important that we talk about these things together, that we don't just kind of keep these stories for our friends or for, in our journals. We have to come out with the fact that, our hormones are changing, our bodies are always changing. We need to compassionately address these things all throughout our lives. And I just thank you so much for contributing to changing the narrative around women's health. I think that is a group effort so that we can actually have a new construct that we all just as a normal practice start taking care of ourselves every single day and not wait till there's a crisis, but really understand that you need a daily practice with just like brushing your teeth. You need to take care of your hormones every day. I invite you all to download the new app so you can have an easier, it's now free, way to take care of your hormones every day, and to continue celebrating with us at FLO Living and on our Instagram and on our social, to help with you just navigating feeling good every day as you're designed to do. So thank you so much for being part of the celebration, and we'll see what's next.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.